Hello, welcome to another episode of Stories of World War II Veterans. My name is Kayleen Reusser, and each week I am reading to you a story from one of the books I have written after interviewing World War II veterans, 260 of them. So today's story is coming from book 4 in my World War II Legacies series. It's called We Defended Freedom: Adventures of World War II Veterans. Today's story is about Wallace Avey, who served in the Army. During battles on Manus and Los Negros Islands in the South Pacific, Wallace Avey of Ossian, Indiana, assisted members of the Medical Corps in setting up tents on beaches. After several landings, the Army medics had learned how to treat injuries while being fired upon. Later in the war, Avey was transferred to the 58th Evacuation Hospital in Leyte, Philippines. He administered transfusions and penicillin shots to patients with dysentery and other infections. The patients included soldiers and Filipino citizens. "We treated everyone alike," he said. "It was part of the rules of war." And part of the rules of being a medic was being flexible to medical facilities and conditions. Avey was born in Jay County in 1921. He grew up in northern Allen County in Indiana, and after graduating from Huntertown High School in 1939, he worked for a railroad company until drafted into the Army in 1942. Avey surprised himself and his family when he tested high on medical exams. Assigned to the Medical Evacuation Corps, he trained at Camp Perry in Toledo, Ohio, and Camp Grant in Illinois. At each place, he learned about medicines, medical terminology, and practices, especially for the battlefield. In 1943, while stationed at Hammond General Hospital in Modesto, California, Avey treated soldiers who had been severely wounded overseas and shipped to the United States to recover. At one point, 23-year-old Avey was assigned as a ward master, a position that put him in charge of an entire section of the hospital. Some injuries Avey and the staff treated were especially challenging. One soldier arrived with half of his face blown off. "That was gruesome," said Avey. "We treated him as well as we could." His training continued at Camp Kohler in Sacramento County, where Avey learned how to apply a gas mask. Biological warfare had been used during World War I. Thankfully, neither side chose to implement it as a weapon in the Second World War. At Camp Beale in Yuba County, California, Avey completed regular soldier drills in preparation for overseas duty. This included running on obstacle courses and learning to fire guns. In October 1943, Avey and thousands of other soldiers left the States on a Liberty ship for the South Pacific. "Our destination was kept a secret," he said. "We were issued wool clothing to give the impression we were going to a cold place." Landing on the east coast of New Guinea meant Avey and the other soldiers adjusted to a limited diet of cornflakes and powdered milk for breakfast. Lunch was not much better: hot dogs and sauerkraut. Avey didn't complain. "I liked those foods," he said. He also didn't mind being referred to as kid and farm boy by the other soldiers. As a medic in the Philippines, Avey adapted to working with Filipinos who were friendly and reliable. Sometimes, however, the Filipinos became nervous at the sight of syringes in Avey's hands. "At first they thought I wanted to hurt them," he said. "I tried to reassure them without knowing much of the language." Medics were not immune to sickness. In October 1944, Avey contracted jungle rot, a common malady among soldiers in the Pacific Theater. The infection appeared as a skin lesion to exposed parts of the body, possibly caused by inadequate nutrition and lack of proper sanitation. After a period of recovery in a field hospital, Avey resumed his duties. He was still in the Philippines when the war ended in August of 1945. The surrender of the Japanese emperor to Allied forces meant the cancellation of a major invasion scheduled for Japan. Hundreds of thousands of troops, including Avey, were told the assault would have a projected high casualty rates. The troops were advised to get their wills in order. "I was glad we didn't have to go through that invasion," said Avey. After the war ended, American soldiers were discharged according to points earned in military service. This was determined by length of service, number of battles fought, and more. A soldier needed 85 points to go home. Avey had 83. He remained at his post in the Pacific for 2 months until receiving the honorable discharge. In December 1945, Sergeant Avey arrived by ship at Tacoma, Washington. Before leaving the Pacific, he obtained a Japanese rifle as a souvenir. In Ossian, Avey farmed and worked for Phelps Dodge. He married Wilmina Harshman in 1948, and the couple became parents to a daughter. "I wanted to enlist and serve my country," said Avey. "I'm glad I got to participate in that part of our nation's history." And here's a picture of Wallace Avey in his military uniform. So again, today's story came from book 4 in my World War II Legacies series, We Defended Freedom, Adventures of World War II Veterans. If you like today's story, please subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, tell someone about it, possibly think about purchasing the books on Amazon, but most of all, tell a veteran thank you for his or her service. We are deeply indebted to our vets, and I thank them as well. We'll see you next week with another story.